God damn, I love it. Firewall feels so good, bro.
What's going on, everybody? It is HottChipzz, formerly known as Blow TV. Maybe a little bit of both. We'll see how the branding goes. So, let's talk about Diablo 4 Season 5. I know you're probably all wondering what took so long to make the video, but what I didn't want to do was what some of these other guys that I watch, and some of them I actually like, but it's like you play the game for 2 hours and you want to publish a video about it, or you play the season for 2 days and you want to talk about what it's missing. And I don't think that's fair to the game. I don't think it's fair to the developers that spend their time making the game, and I don't think it's fair to your community because I mean that's not enough time to really know anything about what you're talking about. There are a few things I want to cover. I'm going to do my best to keep the video sweet and short-ish. I recorded a lot more footage than what I'll probably need for what we're doing, but I'm going to give it my best to not bore you guys to death. So just a few key points I want to touch on. So let's talk about where we are as far as where we were at launch. So everybody knows that Season 4 was the biggest season that Diablo 4 has had yet. Changed the loot, it was tagged Loot Reborn, and it did a lot for the game. Just all positive. I don't really think that's being argued or could be argued by anybody. Kudos to Blizzard for making the change there, and it's been a much better experience ever since. Now, some of the changes that were made outside of the loot, for example, the changes to Helltide, well received, fantastic. I think they made Helltide probably what it was intended to be from the get-go. I don't think anybody has a problem with the way Helltide is today versus how it was during launch. When it came out the first season or two, it was just kind of a mid experience in my opinion, and could have been much better. And I think today's Helltide is a lot closer to what the vision may have been from the get-go. So again, big ups to Blizzard for listening to the community, which it seems like they've been pretty good at doing here lately with this title, and also fulfilling the initial vision that I'm sure they had for Helltide. Nightmare Dungeons have received a change. They have unbelievably made the experience better all around, in my opinion. The events that take place in the dungeon, I remember at launch, everybody hated them. Nobody wanted to do them. They took too much time. You fell asleep waiting on them to start. They didn't give enough of a reward. Now, people make sure they don't skip them because of the XP you get on top of the gambling currency in the game that is now rewarded when you complete them. And also the glyphs level faster, which is kudos to them. I don't really think it was overly exhausting initially, but obviously glyphs are something that have to be done, so the sooner the better as far as that goes. So I do enjoy Nightmare Dungeons today in the state of the game during Season 5 than I ever did initially at launch or a few seasons after that, so that's another good change in my opinion. The world bosses spawning a lot more often, another huge W for the game and for players. I like to see them every hour, every 45 minutes or so, as opposed to like every 6 hours, and then which really was only twice a day for most people because most people would be sleeping at some point when one of them launched. And so good things there. Trying my best not to ramble here. So going into the Infernal Horde, I gotta say this is by far the most fun I've had playing this game since launch. And not just in Infernal Horde, really just all around. I mean, all of the changes that have been made, I can't gloat enough about how much better of a state the game is in today as opposed to where it was. But to hone in on the Infernal Hordes, what a fantastic way to implement this type of gameplay. Now, wave-based gameplay is nothing new. Okay, if you're like me, you play pretty much every ARPG that comes out: Path of Exile, Last Epoch, Lost Ark. There's a couple of more I'm sure I'm forgetting. Grim Dawn is another one I've sunk some hours into. So they're certainly out there. I think the only one I really never sunk my teeth in was the original Titan Quest, and that's because I was too busy playing Diablo 2 at the time. But I've been playing Diablo since the original. I was like 13 years old or something when it came out, and that's when my father got me my first computer for Christmas, and one of the 5 or 6 games he got with the computer was Diablo. So I do have a bit of a bias. I'm not ashamed of it. I'll admit it, and if you know me, you know. However, at the same time, I am fair and I am firm when and where it is due. So you have to earn my respect and you have to earn my positive feedback. It doesn't matter if I happen to like your franchise more than others or not. So the wave-based combat, it's nothing new. I actually somewhat enjoyed it in Last Epoch. I think that game is extremely rough around the edges. We'll make a whole nother video talking about that, but I did enjoy the arena combat and the fact that it had a leaderboard. I wish Blizzard would implement more leaderboards for more of their content across the game, and I'm sure as time goes on, they will. But the Infernal Hordes wave-based game mode is by far the most superior, the most fluid, the most fun arena-style, wave-based gameplay style I have ever played. The experience is top-notch, and in my opinion, is unfeathered and unchallenged by any of the other ARPGs on the market that offers this type of content. I mean, it is just a blast to play. I love it. I know all of my friends that play love it. I haven't really seen any negative reviews on it. And I can't stress enough how awesome and fun this game mode is. If you haven't tried it and you play Diablo, you are absolutely doing a disservice to yourself, and you need to play. As far as the rewards, let's talk about the rewards you get for doing this type of content. Obviously, if the rewards aren't worth it, then most players aren't going to stick around to do it unless there's some sort of leaderboard attached to it, which right there is not. So the rewards are as follows. You get 3 chests at the end of each run. You get a normal chest that's going to pop you typical gear, and you have a chance of getting greater affixed gear out of it, as well as a chance for uniques and mythics, just like everywhere else in the game. There is a greater affixed chest that costs the most points, and that comes with a guaranteed greater affix item, or possibly more, and then regular items, regular gear. You have a materials box that you can also open for points, and that'll give you materials. It'll give you stuff like gem stuff you need to create your gems. It'll give you materials that go into making your elixirs, the stuff you need to maybe enchant your gear, stuff to masterwork your item even once you reach a certain tier of wave and beyond. And then for once you're out of your points, there's a little box you can click, and it takes the rest of what you got and it gives you gold for it, which you can also spend all of it on gold. So they basically, they've created it kind of similar to the way Last Epoch's endgame works, where you get rewards for the different maps you run. So this map will tell you, hey, we're going to give you extra gold for this one, or hey, you got a better chance at a set item for this one, or so forth and so on. So here it's like you can choose to go all gold, you can choose to go all mats, you can choose to open just the item treasure, and then you've also got the guaranteed greater affix box you can open, or you can do all of one or the other. The only one you can only open once is the one with a guaranteed GA. The points you get, I forget at the time exactly what it's called, but you accumulate them based on how good you are able to do during each wave of combat that is initiated in the Infernal Horde. So every tier, and I believe they go up to tier 8 or tier 9, I think is the max right now, and each tier gives you the equivalent in waves. So at tier 4, I think the minimum is 6 waves, tier 5 goes to 7, tier 6 goes to 8, something like that. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure I've got the numbers mixed up a little bit there. I don't have them in front of me. But it's all timed. So you get, I think it's like 1 minute to clear each wave. So you do the best you can during the 1 minute you get for the waves, and there are, several different mechanics and ways in there for you to produce more of the points you get to spend on the boxes at the end. So that's pretty much how that works. And I got to tell you, solo play, group play with friends, it has just been an absolute blast. And I could sit here and tell you how much I love it all day long. I've already been going on for probably a little too long with the Infernal Hordes mode, but kudos. Also, finally, the odd season team gets a W. I know here the way the seasons have worked, season 1 was mid, season 2 Vampire Powers awesome, season 3 the Infernal Construct thing kind of mid, season 4 Loot Reborn awesome. So now season 5 is finally awesome. So to me, the odd team in finally got a W, so kudos to them for that. Just to make a few other honorable mentions here, I think that the leveling progression, all in all, I think for most people, they are enjoying it. You can now reach level 100 insanely fast compared to what it was for the initial launch and the first 2 seasons afterwards. And, that's fine. It's all fun. I don't personally take issue with it. However, because I'm an old school Diablo player, I didn't mind the fact that it took a good while to achieve level 100. That didn't bother me. I'm actually one of the few that don't mind the leveling process of these games. I find that starting from ground zero with a character and building straight up versus, say, starting from level 70, right, like some of these games offer, World of Warcraft and whatnot, I don't really feel like you really get into the depth of your character and get to know your character enough. So I, for one, enjoyed the leveling process and didn't mind how long it took. However, I don't really mind how quick it is nowadays either. And from what I understand, here in a couple of months when the expansion drops, we're actually getting a level squish. And then they're going to reintroduce Paragon levels, which as long as they do that right, I'm all for that. I loved Paragon leveling in Diablo 3, and I think it could be a really good bonus to progression for the game. And I believe Rod Ferguson came out during Gamescom at one of the interviews and said basically Season 6 is going to do to progression what Season 4 did to loot. So we'll be looking forward to getting some more information on that in the next campfire chat that they do. But all in all, leveling's in a pretty good place, I think, across the board for most people. And lastly, the builds, and I gotta say, for the first time in any ARPG I've ever played, I gotta hand it to these devs as far as getting characters balanced, because this by far is the most balanced ARPG at this point in time in the game that I've ever played. Every class in the game has one build, if not two, on the S tier list. There are several on the A tier list. They're just the way they've done it, and it's taken a little catching up with other classes to certain classes. Not going to throw any names out there. Barbarian. But unfortunately, I guess that's just the price and what it costs to get it to the point it's at now. But I got to tell you, Sorks have been amazing this season. Rogues have been amazing pretty much the entire time. Barbarians have been amazing pretty much the entire time. Some people feel they're taking somewhat of a backseat this season because they don't seem as strong as they were before, but I think they're just fine. I think Sorks are just eating all the cake right now, and I'm a Sork main, so I got no issues there. But the Druid's got a couple of builds in S tier. I mean, the Necro's got a build in S tier. They're just... none of them, if any of them are behind, they are not far behind at all compared to their predecessors. And I just think that all in all, totally as a whole right now, the balance in the game is phenomenal. And I think it's just top-notch, bar none to any other ARPG on the market. Nobody has been able to capture true balance the way these devs have in the last season or two of Diablo 4, so kudos to them. So all in all, I think the game is in the best shape it's ever been. It's the funnest it's ever been heading into the expansion Vessel of Hatred, which we're all looking forward to, especially if you're a Mephisto fan, old school Diablo vets like myself. And that's it. That's where I'd like to wrap this up. Again, I could go on all day, but I don't want to ramble. I've already made the video too long. And I do appreciate all the followers, all the people that show love and support, that share the videos. I am still a small-time content creator. I also do all the video editing and all the music in the background, and whatever you hear all comes from one person, and that's me. So I do the best I can, and I do appreciate the love and the support from the people I get it from. And so, with that being said, I wish you all a very good day, a happy season 5, and we'll look forward to season 6 and the Vessel of Hatred. Take care.